What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Daniel and Mark show, brought to you by Hardcore Headstart. As usual, Marky and I we have a plan today. Well, we have a very, very small plan of where we're going with this.
Keep them on the toes.
Exactly right. We got to shake it up. That's how we do. But Marky, first of all, how are you?
I'm excited to be here, man. It's been like a couple of weeks. It's given us a bit of space, and I'm actually really keen to get into today's topic. I think it'll be a really good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we needed that week. Like, we had so much going on. Obviously, you can see on Marky's end, there's a bit of a kind of change in environment. So Marky's moved house over the last week, and we've had a lot of hardcore shooting going on, and we just thought, why not just take the week? We'll relax a little bit, give ourselves, which is probably going to back onto the topic we were speaking about just previous to starting recording, Marky, about knowing like your limitations and when it's good to maybe take a little step back in certain areas.
Yeah, that's right. So before sort of hitting the record button, we were sort of talking about like my personal experience with moving homes and trying to push on with everything that is going on anyway as part of my routine. So turning up to like trying to push on with work, take client calls, send emails, manage deliveries, manage the removal list, going back from the two homes and trying to get everything done instead of, sort of being self-aware and actually asking for time off. So you've got like the mental space so you can think clearly and sort of manage that side. Like, I think it would have been a better thing in hindsight. Yeah. So one thing I've been reflecting on is just knowing when to sort of have high standards, but then also, maybe take it down a notch so that you can potentially be more efficient.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think you see it a lot like in the business world, or just like that new entrepreneur kind of vibe where people start trying to just do so much and then they thin themselves out.
Yeah.
So like you would be able to attest to this, like just from this experience of moving house, like your performance at work just wasn't as good, it wasn't as valuable, right?
Yeah, I'd probably in my mind, I thought I'd kind of be able to still pull off like, sort of like 80% of, I might be a little bit distracted, but I'd still be able to get 80% of the work done. But really, I probably got like 30% done. Like, and it was, I may as well have taken the day off.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so like with big businesses, things move very slowly. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of politics and whatnot. With small businesses, I've seen things move very quickly. But then I've also seen the other side of like, there's not enough planning. It's just like, oh, let's just do stuff, and you're not doing like your best work. So it needs to be a medium.
Oh, absolutely. I think like there's a two main schools of thought. Like people who just do something, like work hard, go and get it done, and just through the amount of that you actually do, it's like a numbers game. Opportunities will come if you just keep doing things. And then there's kind of the school of thought that I think we all prescribe to, that is, really, really think through as deep as possible to every kind of possible outcome, build out an entire strategy. And then what that does is obviously reduce variables and reduce problems. And then you actually end up getting to whatever the goal was considerably quicker.
Yeah.
Because, you thought through all the problems.
Yeah, well, yeah, thinking through the problems, having a strategy, it's not just about planning what needs to be done. It's planning in rest time. It's planning in downtime. It's planning in, space to actually think, right? So that's just as important. So like the way I kind of see it is it's a little bit like running, right? Let's use the running analogy of, hey, I want to, so one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is try to get to a half marathon, which is I think 22 Ks. And if I've got the goal to do it in 3 months or like say 4 months, how would I approach it? There's a couple of ways, right? You could run every single day, right? And do 5 or 6 Ks or 7 Ks and build your way up. Or you could run 3 times a week and, first couple of weeks take it slow, but then run those 3 days really hard. There's no right or wrong answer. The first one is running every day. The second, with less intensity. The second one is running much harder, but having a lot of rest days. So you're still trying to get to the same goal, but you're not necessarily like, there's no exact way to do it. And I think potentially even the second strategy could work better because you're having more rest days and you're reducing the chances of like injuries. So I think the takeaway here is planning in rest days is not necessarily a bad way to spend time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you need it, then it is the best use of your time. Right.
Yeah.
And I think is it Naval who talks about really, I think he talks about sprints and rests, and that's attributed to kind of like work-life balance. But work-life balance is not go to work 9 to 5, come home and watch TV all day. Work-life balance is, or work-life harmony, depending on whoever you listen to, is sprint for a certain period, a necessary period as much as possible, go as hard, get as much done, really, really work as hard as possible. And then use your rest period, whether that's a month, whether it's 2 weeks, whether it's 3 days, whatever is necessary for you to recover, to rest, to build strategy, to really think through your next move, et cetera, et cetera. And that's has always kind of made more sense to me than just trying to do everything at one time. And so let me fix that. It hasn't always made more sense, but when I was taught that, then it has become default, because I was actually the previous. Like I was exactly like you. I was exactly like the former, where you just do all the time, and then like first of all, didn't even give myself enough time to understand what the fuck I was trying to do. So you don't actually get the knowledge in to be able to actually make the right decisions, et cetera, which is kind of building upon that. It's an extension of what we were talking about, not exactly your scenario, but yeah.
Actually, I think that's a good segue into like creating content and trying to sort of like explore different topics and material and just like I guess like scenarios where it would provide value to like people listening or watching. What's it been like for you to transition from, I guess, like a lot of consuming content and sort of planning and understanding the vision of Hardcore Headstart, and now sort of transitioning to executing and actually creating a lot of that content, getting all the guys together, doing the podcast, creating some of your own content? What's that been like, getting back into the doing side of things?
I have massive spurts of like energy when I want to do it, like motivation. I'm like, yes, let's go. And then I have periods where I'm just like, fuck, I just don't have the creative juices. And I don't know if it's like I'm not a creative person, but I think that's just a cop out in my own brain, where it's like, I'm not a creative. You can't make content all the time. But I think it's just about continuously repeating the process and finding something that works. And I'm finding through actually understanding the process of how to make content, like how to build a story, how to actually shoot using a camera, how to speak in front of a camera, which is like one of my long-term goals of what I do, is I want to be like a professional speaker. Finding kind of the enjoyment through the process is slowly, really helping me to be motivated to make more content consistently. But it is a hard one, because it's like the first thing you want to do when you make content is you want to make it the best thing possible, right? You never have the skills to make the best content possible. So I was like, do you make the content, or do you never make the content until you're ready to make the best thing possible? Which is just like, in my opinion, you should just keep doing it, show the consistency, show the progression. But
I don't know if you can relate to this, but when you go from doing something that you haven't had a lot of experience doing and you're kind of exploring and navigating it, your inner critic comes out and goes, hey, you should have done this. Hey, you shouldn't have done that. You could have done this better. And that's where I feel like expectations plays a big part into like how you reflect and perceive like your performance of each piece of content you create, whether it's like in a group or by yourself. And I just kind of go, fuck, like that wasn't my best performance. Last week felt so good. Why did this week kind of feel average, right?
Mm.
And I think that's not a problem with the actual production, but your expectations on yourself. So I like this kind of idea of looking at your psychology, right? You're like back in the day, you'd go into fight or flight if there was like a tiger coming at you, right? Your adrenals go off, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm either gonna fight this tiger or I'm gonna piss off, right? And like, if you reduce your task to, I think I had something like someone explain it to like a 5 minute thing. So like, hey, I'm just gonna do 5 minutes of it, and if I don't feel good, then I'll stop. But you'll always feel good and you'll keep going. But in your mind, you've tricked yourself to go, hey, I'll just do 5 minutes of it, right? Mm. So like, let's say if you apply that to content, right? You go, hey, I woke up kind of shit. I kind of feel tired or whatever. And we normally do podcasts that goes for 45 minutes or an hour. And we go, hey, let's just do 15 minutes. We'll see how it goes. If it still doesn't feel good, we'll clip it at 15 or 30 minutes, right? And we'll do a shorter podcast, or we'll just skip it. And that takes the whole expectation of like, hey, we need to deliver an hour of fucking ripper content. And we'll probably get to the hour anyway, and at the end of it go, fuck, that was actually our best podcast. You know what I mean? So
sure, absolutely. Yeah. We actually, have you listened to the How to Learn podcast, the Hang with Hardcore yet?
No, I'll be honest, I haven't. So much has been going on, but I'm actually keen on that one.
We actually spoke about something really small in that, whereas you can kind of draw the example from, building up small wins early, and not scaring yourself away from something.
Yeah.
So, make whatever the first, whatever it is you're learning, make it so foundational, or make it easy enough that you can get that momentum in. You can get a win. You can feel good about actually learning it. And then from there, it's just repetitions. And then you slowly progress into either harder portions of content or harder tasks to do, or harder learnings, or harder things to learn. And then through time and through consistency, you actually kind of are able to stick with it and, as we're saying, do some really, really good work. So it's just an interesting dynamic as well. Like I don't think people really understand like being on camera, or like right now, both of us have a microphone down below and we have blaring lights right in our fucking eyes, and we're trying to be ourselves as best as possible.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine what it's like. Something that was said to me very, very early is like, I always should have been an actor. And I thought, fuck, I should have been an actor. There's one thing I would have liked to do. But I'm like, trying to compare what we're doing here in comparison to an actor who has like 50 people standing around them. They have like 40 cameras just moving like this and shit. I'm like, how the hell do they actually stay in character? Like, it gives you a kind of, I think watching movies, it gives you another, like a sense of appreciation for what it is they do.
Yeah. 100%. Like it'd be it'd be a different distraction of having all these lights. But then I think you've probably heard this where like you can't really see the faces like in the audience. Like let's say if it's a live performance, and I guess if it's a movie, you'd see the rest of the cast and sort of the directors and the assistant directors and like the sound crew and like all the sort of other people around. But I think a little bit like now, like I've got this light in the corner here where it was kind of annoying, but we've done this a few times that I've just adjusted, and like you just forget, you slowly get sort of used to it. But no doubt there's that adjustment period of, kind of getting used to whether it's a lot of people lighting or looking into a camera or even having a camera there.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And just like being able to actually be yourself on camera. Because the minute the camera turns on or the microphone turns on, anyone and everyone, especially in the beginning, is always going to like kind of put on some form of performance because they want it to be their best thing. So they want to perform. They want to be, what they think is their best self, which is actually like fake, if that makes sense. But it's really, really difficult.
We're making like, we're being ourselves here. We're making content. You sort of just you mentioned something interesting earlier about like wanting to be an actor, sort of when you're younger, which is not being yourself, but like playing a part or like a role. Can you tell me a bit more about like what what also drew you to that? Like what draws you to acting, or what you liked about it,
I
or the
think
idea about it?
I don't really, I haven't spent too much time thinking about it, if I'm honest with you. But
Yeah.
the kind of the small amount I have, it always it drew from a lot of people saying, "Oh, dude, you would have been a good actor." Like, especially when I was a young kid, they said that all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I also love movies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really like that's one of my kind of passions. I really like movies, and thing I'm very drawn to, like, directors. I don't know a hell of a lot, but I find them
Mm.
interesting when they're conversating of like how they come up with a story and how they kind of interpret that story, and then how the actor interprets that story, and how they have to all come together and work towards, kind of using their own interpretations to envision, if they're doing a remaster, the original kind of movie, or if they're making an original movie, like you have nothing to go on, like you have to create an entire character. It's kind of like that freedom through expression that's relatively, it is very interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Never actually pursued it. I did. Well, everyone did this, so it's not like I did this. The acting. What is it? The theatrical stuff in what, like a play? Did you do a play in primary school?
Is it improv, or is it the plays? The play, I think I never did a play, but I think we did some improv in drama class, like for me anyway. But I was never part of like a big play.
No,
Yeah.
we did. We did
Have
full
you
on
have you done
plays.
one?
Yeah, I've done two or
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a
How, how old were you?
young primary school,
Yeah.
but it
Do
wasn't
you?
like a thing you signed up for. It was like the whole school level did
Everyone
it.
had a role.
Yeah,
Like
you
everyone
tried
had
up for
roles.
audition. Yeah, you tried out for auditions. Um, yeah, you had to remember lines and shit like that. And I can't
Mm.
remember all of them, but I remember one. We did Alice in Wonderland, I think,
Yeah.
and I was a Cheshire cat.
Yeah. Right.
And
How
so that
how how much of it do you remember, like of the actual, like being on stage and like the experience?
not
Was
a
it a bit of a blur?
yeah. Oh, it was a. We did another play that was like I remember actually enjoying this one. I was a jester, and I can't remember what the play was on or about, but I was a
Yeah.
jester. Um, but I don't know. It was those things, like a lot of the kids or guys, because playing in a play, that the
Mm.
kind of stigma, I guess, is if you're a guy, it's kind of like that's like a feminine thing to do or whatever.
Mm.
I very much like whether I was saying back then, hey, I actually enjoy this because I was probably a
Mm.
self-conscious little kid, but I remember genuinely enjoying,
Yeah.
practicing for them and actually performing for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you can't see anything because all the lights are on you. So that was an interesting dynamic. I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild. But
I think it'll be cool to kind of like maybe like just explore that again. Whether it's role play or pretending to be like slightly out of character of who you are, not like in your everyday life. That will be kind of it will stimulate like a different part of your brain. And like I've been to a couple of live plays, and they're really engaging. I think what maybe would have like sort of drew the interest for you as a kid was like having a bit of the spotlight, having a bit of like attention on you. And I think that's generally good, right? Early on, like the attention probably is just like, hey, this is nice, I like that people are paying attention to me. Where some actors might go wrong is like that narcissism of like, oh, hey, all the attention's on me, right? So if you just tweak that a little bit, you go, hey, I've got the attention, I like this because I've got value to provide and I can help people, I can use that for good.
absolutely.
Then that's where you've got the ultimate combo. But if you've just got it as like, hey, I just want attention, that's where it becomes like real egocentric and like, hey, it's about me, it's like fame, it's about my influence. So
Absolutely. No, yeah, no, you're 100% right. there's an interesting kind of thing, even with the podcast, like we've spoken about it, you and I, is like, I'm worried.
Yeah.
Sometimes I worry I talk too much.
Yeah.
And then you said to me, like in the exact same podcast, fuck, I worried I spoke too much in that podcast. I was like, you worried? Well, what the hell? Like we're both talking about the same thing. So it's like, we've both got something to say and we both think it's valuable, but we want to kind of help and set up the other person to be their best self, not just to take the limelight, which is interesting. But something I've been speaking about with actually my partner is we're going to go to, when Corona fucking opens up, we're going to go outside of comfort. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna come out of our comfort zone, and we're gonna go to like improv classes or acting classes and stuff.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah.
So you guys already planned that. That's cool. That's
Well,
really
we've
cool.
been talking about it. We haven't like actually booked anything in or anything like that. But I just think it'll be like Jobs. You know, Steve Jobs speaks about those skills that you're kind of interested in or you pick up that can relate back to something similar to, he did calligraphy, which is now the fonts for everything. Like it might be something like that, but it is something I'm just genuinely interested in. I'm like, far out. There's no loss, is there?
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah, I think like I can speak from my very, very limited experience. Like there was this at at my old workplace, there was you could turn up after work, so 5:30. So you'd have to do it in your own time, straight after work. But there'd be like an hour or 2 hours where this guy had a theater background, so he was running this improv class, and if you turned up, you turned up, and like you'd have to like pretend like you're on a bus. So there'd be like a big group. They'd separate like 6 and 6 and 6, and then you'd have like 3 performances, and like you'd pretend like within your groups that like you're playing a specific role and you can do whatever. So you got like you're pretending to be a bus driver and you're like pretending like sit down and you're doing weird shit.
Yeah.
And then there'll be things like, all right, pretend like you're a 6-year-old like little girl, and like Dylan is like, your grandma, and you're having a conversation, like that sort of thing. So like, it's ridiculous, but it forces you to try to get into character and like use a different part of your brain. And I found like emotionally, you actually had to try to draw on things, and like it actually, you can feel, you got your rational side of your brain, and then the other side where you're trying to tap into that, and like it actually stimulates your mind like quite a bit because you're not used to using that side of your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the stuff we do, with Hardcore Headstart, and everything is like relatively rational. Like everything is using a certain part of their brain, if that makes sense. It's it's education focused. It's I don't know the correct terminology here, but it's all
like factual.
Yeah,
very factual, very
it's all like inside
information. Yeah,
exactly. Which is very like it's what's necessary. So it's not like I want to bring the other side of the brain to that, but it's something that you're right. I don't think I've explored enough, especially in the last like probably decade. So yeah, something.
I'll tell you what. I was going to say. I'll tell you like what I think you'll really get out of it is. Let's say you're not a very quiet person, right? And now the improv is like, hey, play the role of a quiet person. You get to put yourself in the shoes of what it'd be like to be a quiet person. So now you can understand a new perspective, or at least you've thought about it.
Yeah.
So that's like something that's quite interesting about it.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And I've read a lot of, one of my other passions is sales, I've read a lot of sales books and watched a lot of videos and content on sales. And, Ryan Serhant, who is, he's a massive broker in New York, but he's also on that TV show, $1 Million Listings. Have you seen that one? Ryan Serhant?
I think if I put on a clip, I might remember it, but I can't draw a picture of who he is right now. Yeah,
you'll know, like when you see him, you'll know this face kind of thing. I read his book, and he says like one of the most important things he ever did was go to an improvisation class, because it always like it allows you to, not just in sales but in general conversation, like that allows you to gives you the ability to always find a new place to go with the conversation. Is it in improv they always say, and what Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, I remember that. I
Yeah, it's
remember
always
that.
like and what else? Like it's never you never shut off a conversation. It's always something else. There's always somewhere else to go. Um,
Yeah,
and I think I'm trying to mix that in with also but having something like good to say, like valuable to say,
mm.
but do it quicker in my head. That's something I'm trying to work on. So I think
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. You and Shay will get you and Shay will definitely get like a lot of value out of it, and whether it's play, whether it's professional, I think that example with the and thing is perfect because sometimes you're not even cognizant that you're shutting down conversations. In like in your mind, you had a good conversation. In the other person's mind, they're like, I didn't even get a chance to get a word in. Like if you're creating that experience, then you're and no one likes talking to someone who keeps changing the topic.
yeah, exactly.
When you think like you're on something, so that and thing is perfect.
Yeah,
You're kind of building on it.
yeah, absolutely. It's building towards as you I think mature and you get more time to think about like your life. You
Yeah.
kind of really start finding like those passions and hobbies and things that are really drawing towards you. And it's that type of thing that at the moment I can find at the moment is really drawing me to it. So I'm like, I might actually explore that now that I have the time, which is really exciting. So that's cool.
Do you consider yourself an expressive person?
What do you mean by expressive? Like,
Just, I guess, just in any sense of any sense of the word. So, like, do you think you're like animated? Do you think you're kind of like sort of more muted, or do you think like you're like in terms of like your emotions and just like I suppose being expressive could be like being loud. It could be sort of showing different emotions very clearly. So like when you're angry, you've got a clear sort of expression or whatever. When you're sad, you've got clear expression. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I'm
Yeah.
relatively adaptable.
Yeah.
So it is dependent on the scenario itself.
Yeah.
So like for and that's I guess kind of like psychopathic a little bit, but if if
What do you mean by psychopathic? Yeah, tell me.
like if there's an emotional moment, I can like I do have the ability to not be emotional in that moment. Doesn't mean I'm not
Yeah.
emotional, but not show it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
Just through like being in high stressful situations and a lot of having to perform under that kind of stress, it allows you to like kind of objectively look at emotion.
Yeah.
I do kind of express the happier side a lot more, as in like if there's a happy moment, then I won't really subdue that as much. I'll be like, yeah, this is a good moment, let's happy, be positive, etc., etc. But if it's like a emotional moment, it's like a sad kind of moment, I may subdue that slightly just to be kind of that rock for a lot of people. I find myself being in that position a lot, which is a good and a bad thing, but it's just
Are there any emotions that you find like that are more harder to express than others? Like, I'll give you an example. So, when someone shares bad news with me, I often find myself like feeling a bit awkward. Like I can't seem to sort of find the right words or like things to sort of say. So I could be more expressive in that sense.
yeah. Like definitely yes. Specific examples right now, it's going to be probably difficult to maybe give, but
Yeah.
like
Hey, can we pause this for 2 secs? Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the vacuum cleaner.
That's what I was literally hearing that the entire time. I was thinking,
you're fucking us up. You're fucking us up, man. All you're gonna hear in the podcast is no, do it later. I'll do it later. It's like 15 minutes, Jen. We need 15 minutes of silence. Jesus.
You know what's even funnier? I reckon I might even keep that in. Jenny,
Yeah.
Jenny,
Johnny!
listen to me. Listen to me.
Listen to me.
No vacuuming when the potty's on. All right.
Compromise.
What we're talking about? Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're talking about. I'll vacuum next time she's in a Zoom meeting at work. Just like right in the front of it.
You should do it just in your jocks. Just walk behind it just in your jocks.
Just casually. And then carry like a pot plant like Dylan, like in the background.
Just walk around with some random shit.
We're talking about expression, and the example I had was like someone's sad or like they've shared like some bad news, and I'm trying to be empathetic and show sympathy, but I find it hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think empathy is a hard one for me. Maybe not empathy. What's the right word? It's sometimes I struggle because I know the answer to help someone, but it's not necessary. Or it's not the right thing to give them that answer. Because it's not what's actually meant to help in that specific moment. You know, being sympathetic and being kind of like that ability to just console. Sometimes I do struggle with just like, dude, here's the answer. Do this and it'll be all okay. Sometimes that's not the most helpful thing, because it's like you need to train someone to be able to think in that certain way as well. Don't just give them the answer, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes they don't want to hear the answer right now, or sometimes they're in an emotional point of their part where they literally can't hear the answer because they're so upset.
So the timing of the advice, and not necessarily giving advice, like stopping yourself from giving advice when it's not like maybe the right time, or like people, you know, they need to just have someone listen, I suppose.
Yeah, because I'm like, I know you're upset about a specific thing. Okay, here's what won't make you upset anymore.
I think guys just do it a lot, right?
I'm like, fucking, that just solves the solution. But sometimes the solve is not the actual. I'm not sure if that's right or not. Because still in my head, intuitively, it's like fucking the answer is the problem. The answer is the.
Any guy who's been in a relationship would be able to relate to that, I feel like. But having said that, like whether it's you and your girl, like a guy and his girlfriend, or a guy and one of his mates, I've like had that personally like affect my friendships before, where a person has kind of gone, oh, he's fucking like insensitive, like he's not, you know, like, you know what I mean? So I think it's not just like there's a bit of a stereotype, like it's a guys thinking with their head, girls thinking with their heart, but it also happens with guys and guys. So like just close mates of yours. So I think it's definitely something that can be finessed and used, you know, it can sort of be used for personal growth.
Yeah. One thing I've definitely learned as well is like starting any kind of character development or like entrepreneurial journey, you feel like sometimes you have all the answers over someone else. And I only give advice if I actually have an answer.
Yeah.
So because I do that, I feel like more obliged when I do have an answer to actually give the answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't give my opinion on anything that I don't know about. Or if we're having a conversation about something I'm really not sure on, I'll just preface with, I'm not really sure about this, but I think I heard this, I think I heard that, which is not even useful at all. You should probably just not say anything. But if I'm giving advice or consult, it's something I genuinely know about, where I'm like, and here's the answer.
I think it's awesome. Like you're aware of that, and you make that concerted effort to, you know, sort of not share like an opinion when you feel like maybe you're not the most qualified person. Like you still can help someone without giving them maybe an opinion that isn't like quite like refined enough. And I noticed like the rest of you guys do it as well. Like, you know, Samir and Dylan, and like, you know, if I ask Dylan a question about like, hey, what do you think about like the Australian dollar versus the US dollar and where that's going, like currency wise, he would just say like, you know, and he's like one of the guys that, you know, understands the financial markets like the most out of all of us, and he'll just say, hey, I'm not too sure about that, where he probably might have an opinion, but it's not his area of competence. So he withholds that information because he thinks like it's not really something he's comfortable talking about because he thinks he's not going to add value there. So
That's exactly right. I think a half thought, like kind of advisory comment or something like that will always lead someone down like the path of confusion if it's not 100% correct. So it's like as someone who, like, my metric is to help as many people as possible, like truly help people. That's my metric for success. I never want to send someone down a path that's worse for them because I just wanted to say something. I wanted to have an answer. If someone asks me a question, I don't know the answer. And it's far out, man. Like, you get better, like, at time. Like, sometimes I'll give a half answer, but I'll have to say, hey, but I'm really not 100% sure. I don't know. But what I will do is, if I don't know the answer, I know half the answers, I'll actually do the research and I'll get back to you because I've done half the research. I have a certain amount of, brain capacity that will allow me to actually help, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you'll go away from that conversation and go, okay, I didn't have the answer. I'll tell them I don't know, but you'll have the action point of following it up to try to find out what the actual answer was. So if that conversation happens again with that same person or somebody else, you're not, maybe you can provide those answers.
Yeah. If it's in my wheelhouse, like if it's something that's like, I don't know what an example.
What's the meaning of life?
Yeah. Or does anyone have an answer to that? Like, what's fucking physics? What's this physics principle? What does that mean? But I've heard about it before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched a 3-minute video on what string theory is. If I can tell you what string theory is. I'm certainly not going to do the research to tell you what string theory is because I could not give a flying.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me in the slightest. But if it's in my wheelhouse and I know something, then I'll do the best job I can to advise and help people.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think like another like take on it too is your net impression. So you can go from like, hey, I respect this person. He's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about, to like, I've got a bit of doubts from him. He doesn't have all the answers. You know what I mean? So like sometimes sharing like with detail on the things and withholding, and not having a strong opinion on, topics that you don't know very well can sort of give you a better net impression because like, hey, this person seems more confident. He knows what he's talking about. That sort of that feeling you get from certain people.
Yeah. I think reputation is lost when you give advice or consult or something you don't know about and it turns out to be wrong.
100%. Because that person goes away thinking that, hey, you knew the answer. They do their research and like, hey, this guy actually doesn't know everything.
And if he doesn't know as much. Oh yeah. If you're trained like in kind of like, if you understand tonality or anything like that, like I can tell you with 100% conviction something right now, like sound like I have 100% conviction, and a lot of people would believe it 100%. But I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people are marketers. People can lie to you very easily. And there's enough information or enough kind of like skills to be learnt on the internet where you can falsify what it is you're saying. So it's all about like the conviction in your voice. Like if you have high conviction in something, you truly believe it. Have you actually done the research to genuinely believe that? Are you biased against yourself? You haven't actually understood what it is you're talking about. I mean, there's a whole host of different variables that we could get into right there, but that's a bit of that could be an entire podcast, that one.
I think it's interesting because like, let's say if you're, you like the idea of selling a service or a product, and then you go out and the actual practice of it will help you quickly identify if you genuinely feel like you believe in the product or the service or not. You know what I mean? Yeah. And going through those motions can make you go, hey, I've been saying this and I think this, but I don't feel quite right when I explain it and it's not translating well. That lets you know, okay, maybe there's a flaw in your own beliefs. Maybe you need to do more research on what you've been told so you can have the conviction or maybe have a different opinion on it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What if you can't explain that to a 5-year-old? You don't know it well enough.
Yeah. The more simple you can explain it, the more like you actually understand the topic, I suppose. Yeah. Another way put.
That's another thing with content. When we first got sucked, like when we first started this, I got suckered into the whole like Russell Brand type of conversating. Now, Russell
Yeah.
Brand himself is a brilliant speaker, but he uses words that don't exist to confuse people from the original point. That is a fact.
Or convoluted, like saying something in a convoluted way can sometimes sound good, and if you talk very quickly it can kind of make you seem more intellectual, but a lot of the times it's kind of like if you're continuously talking in paradoxes and like contradictions, it's like, well, do you have a really strong opinion on anything?
Like, do you actually believe it is what you're saying? Like, do you know what you're saying? Like, dude, some of the times when Russell Brand speaks, I'm like, dude, I love what you're saying or how you're saying it. Like, I just like listening to you, but I don't know what you're saying.
It's like poetry.
Yeah,
You know,
beautiful. I'm like, what the
that was beautiful, but I don't think I got anything out of it.
Yeah, at all, you know. And if like our metric and hardcore and individually ours is like we want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I have to say things. We have to say things how people want to hear it and how people are going to understand it, not how we want to say it.
To be fair though, like I think he often talks about topics, or his area of interest is maybe in areas that are like less science. So like maybe it's
You're
more around like spirituality where there's open
right.
to interpretation, different views. So it's more persuasive when he kind of uses that colloquial, colorful language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You are 100% right. It's I like persuasion through realistic kind of and just like obvious, like this is the answer, this is the answer, this is the answer, this is the answer, this is how it's going to help you. This is exactly how it's going to help you. This is exactly how it's going to help you. Does that sound fair? Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Sweet. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Like, dude, I could study the dictionary and confuse the fuck out of some people and get a yes, but does that mean they're going to understand deeply? And then are they going to go and try and explain what I just said to someone else and confuse them even further? So I get a yes from this person, but I get a no from this person because this person paraphrased what the guy was saying. And it's just, then your reputation is lost with this person and it's a goddamn mess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, it's kind of like someone comes up to you, asks you a fairly simple question. You're like, do I give them the 1 minute answer or do I give them the 10-minute answer and leave them with more questions than they had before they came to you?
Exactly. How many fucking words can I use? Like, is there a small amount of words I can use to explain this and answer this question for you?
Yeah.
Dude, I ain't perfect at it yet.
In the business context, it gets hit on very often where if you can say like in an email the same thing and you can convey the same message in fewer words, you should try to get into that practice because it makes you more efficient. And the way I operate, I'm just very analytical, so I struggle with that. I probably say things in far too many words than needed.
Yeah. I've done the opposite as well, where I assume people know what I know.
Okay.
I assume people have the same context I do, so I actually make it too short, and then they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then I have to re-explain it, which takes even longer, and I'm like, "Shit."
Invest now, compound good. money good, life easy.
Dude, if that's how easy it should be. Like, because that's literally the answer. Investing good, compound great, life easy.
Yeah, it's so true.
But yeah. Oh, I think I've got one more thing. Marky,
to wrap it up.
New merch?
It looks a touch bigger. I think from the Instagram stories. Is that that's different?
Yeah, so
the logo's
it's a new hoodie, which is a little bit thicker. Hood itself is a touch thicker as well.
It looks good. I can't see it like through the like. Obviously, it's something like touching would obviously be like better, but it's thicker, is it?
Yeah, it is considerably thicker than the previous one. This has had a wash as well, which it seems to be it held up really, really nicely, but the logo itself is a touch bigger than the next ones will be. It will be a little bit smaller than this, probably 25% smaller. But the original was like 75% smaller than this. So this is considerably. So we'll make it a touch smaller, but a cool thing that I'm not sure if you've seen because you've been busy, but we're actually doing a drop for all our closest fans who actually want to kind of get them some hands on some merch or some clothing.
Yeah.
So we're doing some tees, and we're doing these hoodies right here. You can see them all. We're doing 4 different colors. So we're doing black, white, burgundy, and like a blue, whether that's a navy blue or a lighter blue. So I think the message really is, if you watch this podcast and you're interested, all you have to do is DM one of us. They are by order. So we're not going to have stock. We're only going to be ordering what it is that people ask for. Hoodies are $50, tees are $30. So relatively, really cheap, especially for the quality. In my opinion, they're the price point makes sense. Yeah, and I think they're a really, really nice hoodie. And as we've said many times, this hoodie is meant to feel like armor for people. When they put this on, this is their environment that they can find themselves in to grind, to work as hard as possible, to become the best version of themselves. So when you put this hoodie on, you are a hardcore head starter. And, this is us protecting you from whatever is going on in the normal life. And we explain that better in one of the podcasts as well. And there's a clip on the YouTube channel, so go and check it out.
Yeah, 100%. I think like having that reminder, right, that you're part of communities always goes a long way. And just knowing that, if you've just found us, you are part of like a group of like-minded people. And if you've been around a while, it's just it's a comfort thing. And it's also like a reminder of like, hey, where you've come from, right? Like we're trying to build this thing that represents community, represents bringing like-minded people together, so we can achieve our goals quicker because we're working as a team instead of individuals. And I can't wait to get like some merch, man. Like it's long overdue, and I've lost count how long this lockdown's been. Like
ridiculous.
There was we came out of lockdown, but we couldn't visit people, and then we went back into lockdown. So it's like I think it's been like 4 months now since I've seen you guys. 3 or 4 months. Yeah,
it's really getting on my nerves at this point, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
Like we've got your original merch here at the house still, and now we're doing like this is our 3rd order, and you guys still haven't even got your hands on it. I'm like, this is absurd. So, but you guys, when you feel it, when you see it, you will love it. This is again, this is just a basic thing. It's not the one we're going to run out to everyone. This is not us starting our clothing portion of the business. This is just our closest fans who have really been supporting us for not just the last 2 months of podcasts and not just the last couple of months of Marky and I podcast. It's the last decade or however long you've been following us. Some of those people have been following us for a decade now. They've been watching us grow, watching our progression, and we want to kind of give something that can symbolize all of that. We've got the new logo. So, if you're interested in DM Marky or I, or any of the boys at Hardcore Headstart, and we'll place that order for you, and we can help you through other colors and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's it. I think like we've got like plenty of people that aren't like heavily interested in the investing side, but like they like us and they're sort of like friends and family, and like it's still kind of you wear the merch, you're kind of like it's comfy as shit. Like so even if you even if you're not big on even if you're not like huge on the investing side, you guys can still get the merch and like feel like you're part of you're supporting your friends, your family in what they're doing, and you've got a nice hoodie or shirt just to lounge in as well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's really, really, really comfy. Dude, I haven't even told you, we got 30 odd orders already. So, there's a lot of people who want a piece of it, and DM us. That's it. That's all I got.
Sounds good. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. This was our first podcast in the last 2 weeks, Marky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back, guys.
I think it was worth a little break. I feel like we're really, really kind of like a reinvigorated amount of energy into this podcast. I think it was a really good conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. I think the little bit of space like sort of just helped us bring back the energy, and like also just kind of just kind of like refocus where the podcast goes, in like just knowing when to sort of take breaks so that you can come back and create great content again. So
that's exactly right. As always, please like, subscribe, click that little bell thing, because that'll let you know when we post all the time. We post on Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. So please go check it out. Tell your friends. This is a little fun podcast. And also go and check out the Hanging with Hardcore podcast on the Hardcore Headstart YouTube channel. Links will be in the bio. Pack her up.
It's been a pleasure, mate. Have a good weekend.